Hi. I'm here to talk about why I think that God and Jesus are real. I know that the topic about whether or not God and Jesus exist uh, has been talked about a lot. People have very passionate opinions both ways. And I'm here to describe why I think that God and Jesus are real. I could understand how people could have their doubts or at least some questions about the existence of God and Jesus. And I'm not here to force my opinion or pressure anybody to feel a certain way, but I'm here to express how I personally feel about the subject. And a lot of people could have their doubts because there could seem to be a lack of evidence about God and Jesus being real. However, I've been looking at things through a different perspective on that matter because it could seem like there's no proof of God and Jesus being real, but I feel like proof of their existence could be out there and it could seem somewhat ambiguous, but I feel like it's out there in a very meaningful way that matters more than people getting physical evidence like a picture or a little video clip or something like that. Um, what Jesus is known for is making the most selfless sacrifice that anybody has ever made. And throughout various generations and timelines, people have done very selfless things where they care more about their families, their friends, sometimes even people they don't know that well, more than themselves and more than their own desires. It could seem like, well, why would they do that? Well, I think it's because of what Jesus did. I feel like when somebody does something incredibly selfless, sometimes so selfless that other people could not understand why they would do something so selfless for so little, if anything, in return. Well, I think it's because of Jesus' example and the impact that he left on us. And when there are people doing something that is so morally responsible, so incredibly thought provoking, that some of the best people that there's ever been, well, I think that they're following God's example and Jesus' example. And I think it goes beyond that. When people have such thought provoking optimism, I think where it all comes from, God and Jesus. And what about parents? Well, what about when a mother is a leader, a thought provoking person? A beautiful example of feminism and stepping up in such a bold way. I think it comes from Mary, the greatest mother of all time, greatest woman of all time. And what about when um, an adult raises a child that's not related to them by birth, but is as loving as a biological parent would be? I think that comes from Joseph, being a father to Jesus. And I think that the generosity of people giving gifts to each other, I think they're following the example of the three wise men. I think the most selfless, most wonderful actions of all time come from the examples of the Holy Family. And I think that the kindest, most amazing things that people have ever done happened because of God and Jesus. And I know there's a lot of villainous stuff out there, but I think that comes from people not following God and Jesus' example. I feel like the bad things that happen don't disprove the existence of a holy family. So I think that the best things that have ever happened because of God and Jesus. And so I think they're very real. And so that's how I personally feel about it. Um, and I'm not expecting everybody to agree with me or see things the same way as me, but I really wanted to share my perspective on things. And I believe in God and Jesus, and I believe in their morality and what they stand for. And I think it's beautiful in the most meaningful way possible.